It's late at night in a laboratory, and the janitor named Ron is cleaning the hallways while listening to music. He notices that the scientist Peter is still outside and working late. Ron enters the laboratory to do some cleaning, so Peter steps out of the room to have a snack. He notices that there's a bed behind some curtains, and behind them, he finds a man asleep with black veins. Suddenly, the patient moves his hand, startling Ron and causing him to accidentally hit the life monitor. Panicked, he leans over the man to start cardiopulmonary resuscitation. However, he presses so hard that the man's stomach ruptures. As Ron screams, the man with red eyes opens his eyes. It turns out he is patient 0 of a new zombie infection and immediately attacks Ron. Shortly after, Peter returns and finds Ron zombified, who jumps on him and infects him. The next day, Scout Rogers, the leader, along with his 3 group members, Ben, Carter, and Orgy, are at a school trying to recruit new members using a very poorly made video. Unfortunately, everyone considers them losers because they are no longer scouts at their age, and no one wants to join. Before leaving, Roger announces that Orgy will receive the highest scout badge, and the ceremony will take place at night in a camp. Later, on the way home, Carter and Ben discuss the scout issue because the only reason they are still members is for Orgy's sake. Orgy has been feeling lonely since he lost his father, and his friends are all he has. But they will graduate next year, and they've never had a girlfriend or been to a party, which Carter attributes to the scout uniform making them look like kids. Because they are so busy arguing, they fail to see a deer in the middle of the road and accidentally run it over, puncturing a tire. After checking the dead animal, Carter takes a selfie with it, while Ben starts working on changing the tire. At that moment, a car with Kendall, Jeff, and Chloe stops. Kendall is Carter's older sister, and Ben has always had a crush on her, but she is dating Jeff and sees Ben only as a friend. When they talk about the deer, they notice that the body is no longer on the road, leaving only a stain. Meanwhile, Carter asks about the party everyone is talking about, and to their surprise, Jeff invites them to join. When they return home, Carter insists on a very foolish plan. They will show up at Orgy's ceremony, and after he falls asleep, they will sneak off to the party and return before dawn. Ben reluctantly agrees. In the late afternoon, Roger heads to the camping site, where he finds a sign with Peter's name on it, even though the address indicates it couldn't be seen from that far away. He is suddenly attacked by the deer they hit, which has turned into a zombie. Using his knife, Roger stabs the deer in the eye to kill it. However, when he turns back, he finds zombie Peter, who bites him. Meanwhile, Carter and Ben go to a store. At that moment, a beautiful woman named Denise exits the store, and her bag strap breaks, but Ben helps her by fixing it with a knot. To thank them, Denise goes inside and buys drinks for the boys before returning to her work at the adult club. The two consider following her, but there's a very intimidating bouncer who doesn't allow minors to enter, so the boys retreat. A little later, the 3 youngsters are surprised that Rogers hasn't arrived yet. Orgy thinks it's a test to earn his badge, so the boys start setting up the camp. Meanwhile, the party is in full swing, but Kendall is worried that the boys haven't shown up. A few hours later, Orgy finally falls asleep, and Carter and Ben sneak out of the camp. On their way to the car, they find Roger's knife on the ground. They also notice footprints in the mud, but Carter doesn't care and drags Ben to the car. Unfortunately, Orgy is waiting and knows about the party. So Ben and Carter admit that they no longer want to be scouts because they need to grow up. Hurt and disappointed, Orgy tells them to leave. Ben and Carter return to town and notice that it's very quiet. They stop the car near a convenience store and see that the store's glass door is shattered. Their thoughts are interrupted by Carter, who suggests they can go to the club. The two enter the club, and Ben discovers that it's empty, but they sit in front of the stage where a dancer begins her show. Suddenly, the dancer's neck breaks. While Ben runs to the bathroom, and the bouncer follows him, the dancer attacks Carter, who uses a broken bottle to kill her. The bouncer finds Ben in one of the bathrooms, but Denise arrives and blows his head off with a gun. Orgy decides to go to Roger's house. No one answers the door, so Orgy enters the house. He gets ready to leave when his stomach starts to hurt, so he rushes into the bathroom. He is too distracted to notice that there's a zombie in the backyard. Orgy returns to the living room, where he is shocked to find Rogers, who is now a zombie. Orgy tries to escape to the basement, but he is pushed by Rogers. Another chase begins, but this time Orgy grabs a can of spray and a lighter to set Rogers on fire and ties him to a chair. At the club, Denise confirms that the zombie apocalypse is underway and that they need to flee. The trio heads to the sheriff's office, but it's too late. There's a sign saying that all survivors have been evacuated to the security checkpoint at mile 17. At that moment, the zombie horde arrives, so the trio rushes inside and locks the door. Unfortunately, the sheriff is there, and he has also turned into a zombie, so he starts shooting. Carter and Ben quickly take down the sheriff. Unfortunately, the zombie horde breaks the glass door and begins to make their way inside. The 3 immediately run and find the only safe place is a jail cell. Carter tries to get some sleep while Ben talks to Denise. Suddenly, they hear music coming from an empty car. The zombies rush outside to find a new victim. Meanwhile, outside, it is revealed that Orgy played the music to distract the zombies. The zombies start to follow him, so Orgy makes his way inside just in time to find the trio. Orgy uses his scout skills to pick the lock and open the cell. A few moments later, the group is on the road when they come across an abandoned truck. Approaching it, they discover that the driver is also a zombie, but Orgy believes he can communicate with him as if he were a wild animal. Using his scout knowledge, Orgy manages to establish a connection with the zombie through strange animal-like sounds. And when he notices that the zombies are wearing a Britney Spears t-shirt, he starts singing, "Hit Me Baby One More Time." Their brief moment of sympathy is interrupted when the zombie is suddenly shot by Reeves. A few moments later, Reeves leads the group with his military vehicle, explaining that all the town's residents have been evacuated. They turn the car around and hurry to get to the party location, only to find it empty. It turns out Jeff had given them a fake address. Meanwhile, Denise returns and discovers that Reeves is turning into a zombie, so she kills him. At that moment, a radio message announces that the area will be destroyed in 2 hours. Carter remembers that his sister writes everything in her journal, so they decide to go to her home to find out the party address. They sneak into the house through the backyard, unaware that Mrs. Fielder is spying on them. They start looking for Kendall's journal in her room, but suddenly, there is a noise downstairs, so Orgy and Carter go to check. Denise wonders why Ben never told Kendall about his feelings, and Ben tells her he's an inexperienced loser, so Denise teaches him how to kiss. Downstairs, Carter is suddenly attacked by Mrs. Fielder, who is now a zombie, and all the screams attract the attention of the horde. Orgy has to fight another zombie before pushing Mrs. Fielder away from Carter, and together they place her at the window where they cut off her head. They run and hide in Kendall's room, blocking the door with furniture. They try to escape through the window, but there are zombies there too. The horde starts banging on the door, so the group decides to escape by jumping on the trampoline and then into the neighbor's yard. Everyone manages to cross without any issues, but when it's Ben's turn, he sees the girl's journal fallen from a drawer and goes back to retrieve it. At that moment, the zombies appear, so Ben jumps on the trampoline and joins his friends. Afterward, the group hides in Mrs. Fielder's house. Suddenly, a group of zombie cats appears. The group runs to the garage and steals Mrs. Fielder's car to escape. A few moments later, Ben says goodbye to Denise, who leaves town on a motorcycle to contact the military, while the boys have to save the partygoers. First, they stop at a hardware store and use all their knowledge to create weapons. Meanwhile, Chloe and her new boyfriend go to a private place to do things where they are attacked by zombies. Kendall is worried about her brother, so Jeff tells her he gave them a fake address, which makes Kendall furious. The two are suddenly interrupted by Chloe, who has also turned into a zombie and lunges to bite them. Kendall screams and tries to escape, but the door being open allows the zombies to enter the building and they attack all the teenagers. The boys arrive and start fighting the zombies. Carter is sad that he killed his girlfriend, Chloe, but Ben is glad he killed Jeff. Ben then manages to save Kendall. Later, the boys tell the teenagers to run and close the doors so the zombies can't follow them. The three try to find another way out but end up getting stuck in the basketball court. Suddenly, Orgy reveals that he had prepared a bomb in case of an emergency and takes it out. At that moment, Denise arrives, and Ben and Carter follow suit. Orgy has 1 more minute to set the bomb and runs before it explodes. The group watches as the fire eliminates the zombies, only to discover that Rogers is waiting to attack them. Fortunately, the army arrives, and he is blown up. The next morning, in the military camp, Ben approaches Kendall and kisses her due to the courage they've gained.